Hello and welcome to my channel. I hope you enjoy this story. I'm going to try and upload a new story each day. The Shadowed Skull of Carisbrooke Castle. The air around Carisbrooke Castle was thick with the weight of centuries. Holly Arnold, a dedicated historian with a penchant for the arcane, felt a chill run down her spine as she approached the ancient fortress. She had spent years poring over musty tomes and obscure references, all pointing to this place. Today she would uncover its secrets. Carisbrooke Castle stood imposingly on the Isle of Wight, its stone walls whispering tales of battles and betrayals. Holly's research had led her to believe that within these walls lay a treasure trove of knowledge hidden away from prying eyes. But it was not gold or jewels she sought, it was a scroll, an ancient manuscript rumored to contain forbidden knowledge. Legend had it that the scroll had been sealed away centuries ago, its contents too dangerous for the world. Inside the castle, Holly's footsteps echoed in the empty halls. The caretaker had granted her special permission to explore, provided she respected the historical integrity of the site. She descended a narrow staircase into the bowels of the castle, her flashlight casting eerie shadows on the damp stone walls. After hours of searching, she found a small, hidden alcove behind a crumbling wall. Inside was a withered chest bound with iron and etched with strange symbols. Her heart raced as she pried it open, revealing the scroll inside. It was wrapped in aged, brittle leather, the edges frayed and worn. As Holly carefully unwrapped the scroll, she felt a sense of foreboding. The symbols on the parchment were unlike anything she had seen before, twisted, cryptic, and pulsating with a malevolent energy. She began to decipher the writings, her curiosity overcoming her fear. The ancient language slowly gave way to meaning, revealing dark incantations and secrets of the universe that should have remained buried. With each word she translated, the air around her grew colder. Shadows seemed to creep closer, as if drawn to the scroll's dark power. Suddenly, the lights flickered, and an unnatural darkness enveloped the room. Holly's breath caught in her throat as she realized she had unwittingly unleashed something ancient and malevolent. A whisper filled the air, a voice that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere. "You should not have awakened us," it hissed. Holly felt a cold hand brush against her neck, and she spun around, but there was no one there. Panic set in as she clutched the scroll to her chest, realizing the gravity of her mistake. Desperate to undo what she had done, Holly raced back through the castle, the shadows chasing her every step. She needed to find a way to seal the darkness back within the scroll before it was too late. Her mind raced with possibilities, but the knowledge she had deciphered only hinted at the rituals required, a complex, dangerous rites that could cost her everything. Outside, the sky had darkened unnaturally, and the wind howled with a mournful wail. Holly knew she didn't have much time. She made her way to the castle's chapel, a place of sanctity and protection. As she entered, the ancient candles flared to life, casting a dim light over the stone altar. Laying the scroll on the altar, Holly began the incantation, her voice trembling but resolute. The shadows writhed and twisted around her, their whispers growing louder, more insistent. She could feel their hunger, their desire to consume everything in their path. Sweat dripped down her brow as she chanted, each word a battle against the encroaching darkness. Suddenly, the chapel doors flew open, and a figure stepped inside. It was the caretaker, his eyes filled with an unnatural gleam. "You cannot stop us," he snarled, his voice distorted. Holly realized with horror that he had been possessed by the very darkness she sought to contain. With a final, desperate cry, Holly completed the incantation. The scroll glowed with an eerie light, and the shadows screamed in agony. The caretaker lunged at her, but was thrown back by an unseen force. The darkness began to recede, pulled back into the scroll's confines. Holly felt a surge of relief as the light returned to the room, the malevolent presence vanished once more. But as she collapsed in exhaustion, Holly knew the battle was far from over. The scroll was still dangerous, and there were those who would stop at nothing to harness its power. She had to ensure it was hidden away again, this time in a place where it could never be found. With the caretaker subdued and the scroll safely sealed, Holly made her way back to the castle entrance. The storm outside had passed, leaving a calm but eerie silence in its wake. She knew she couldn't do this alone. She would need allies, people who understood the stakes and could help protect the world from the darkness she had unleashed. As she left Carisbrooke Castle, Holly vowed to safeguard the shadowed scroll, even if it meant sacrificing everything she held dear. The ancient knowledge it contained was a powerful weapon, one that could either save humanity or doom it to eternal darkness. And she would stop at nothing to ensure it never fell into the wrong hands again. Holly knew she needed to act quickly. She couldn't risk another soul being corrupted by the scroll's dark influence. Her first stop was the library at the University of Portsmouth, where her mentor, Professor Elias Thorne, resided. If anyone could help her decipher the remaining rituals and find a permanent solution, it was him. The drive to Portsmouth was nerve-wracking. Every shadow seemed to move, every gust of wind carried a whisper of the darkness she had barely contained. Her mind raced with the possibilities of what could happen if the scroll fell into the wrong hands. She thought about the caretaker, a man she had trusted, now a vessel for the ancient evil. It made her skin crawl. When she arrived at the university, she found Professor Thorne in his cluttered office, surrounded by stacks of books and ancient artifacts. His eyes widened in shock as Holly recounted her ordeal, showing him the scroll she had resealed. He listened intently, his expression growing more grave with each word. "This is far worse than I imagined," Professor Thorne said, his voice barely above a whisper. "We need to consult the Codex Tenebris. It's the only text that might have the information we need to permanently neutralize the scroll." The Codex Tenebris was an ancient manuscript rumored to be even older than the scroll itself. It was said to contain powerful counter spells and rituals to combat the darkest of magics. However, it was also known to be heavily guarded and incredibly dangerous to access. "The British Museum has a copy," Holly said, determination in her eyes. "We need to get there immediately." As they made their way to London, Holly and Professor Thorne discussed their plan. They would need to be discreet, as the museum's archives were closely monitored. Any indication that they were tampering with such a dangerous text could lead to severe consequences. They arrived at the British Museum under the cover of night, slipping past the security measures with the help of Holly's connections. Inside, the air was thick with the scent of old paper and history. They navigated through the labyrinthine corridors until they reached the restricted section. The Codex Tenebris was kept in a glass case, its dark cover adorned with ominous symbols. Holly and Thorne worked quickly, using a special set of tools to carefully lift the protective glass. The book seemed to hum with a latent power, its pages crackling with energy as they opened it. Professor Thorne's eyes scanned the ancient text, his finger tracing the intricate runes. "Here," he said, pointing to a passage. "This ritual requires a convergence of ley lines, a place where the Earth's magical energy is at its peak. We need to perform the binding spell there to permanently neutralize the scroll's power." Holly's mind raced. "The Isle of Wight," she said. "There's a convergence point near the Needles, a place known for its mystical significance. It's perfect." With the ritual identified, they gathered the necessary materials, rare herbs, crystals, and other arcane items, and made their way back to the Isle of Wight. Their journey felt surreal, the weight of their task pressing down on them with each passing mile. When they reached the Needles, the sky was heavy with dark clouds, the air charged with an unnatural energy. Holly and Professor Thorne set up their ritual circle, arranging the materials with precision. The scroll lay in the center, its presence a stark reminder of the darkness they faced. As they began the incantation, the ground trembled beneath their feet. The air grew colder, and the shadows around them seemed to dance with anticipation. Holly's voice joined Thorne's, their words melding together in a powerful chant. The crystals glowed with a soft light, amplifying the energy around them. The darkness resisted, pushing back against their efforts. Holly felt a surge of fear, but she steeled herself, focusing on the ritual. She couldn't let it win. They continued, their voices rising in intensity, the power of their words filling the air. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the shadows. It was the caretaker, his eyes burning with a malevolent light. "You cannot stop us," he hissed, advancing towards the circle. Holly and Thorne didn't falter. With a final, forceful chant, the ritual reached its climax. The crystals blazed with light, and the scroll began to glow, its dark power being drawn out and neutralized. The caretaker screamed, a sound of pure agony, as the darkness was torn from him, dissipating into the air. The scroll crumbled to dust, its power forever extinguished. The caretaker collapsed, unconscious but alive, freed from the malevolent force that had possessed him. Exhausted but victorious, Holly and Professor Thorne collapsed to the ground, the weight of their ordeal lifting. The sky began to clear, the first rays of dawn breaking through the clouds. They had succeeded. But Holly knew this was not the end. There were other artifacts, other scrolls with dangerous knowledge hidden away in the world. She had a new purpose now, to seek out and protect these ancient secrets, ensuring they never again threatened humanity. As she looked out over the calm sea, Holly felt a renewed sense of determination. The shadowed scroll of Carisbrooke Castle was just the beginning. The world was full of mysteries, and she was ready to face them, no matter the cost. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed this story. Please don't forget to like, and even better, like and subscribe. Thank you very much, and I hope you have had or have a great day.